All right, let's jump right into this explainer and look at a genuinely fascinating piece of folklore. Today, we're talking about taking Amon, who you probably know as a classic entry in demonology, and transforming him into a highly complex, dynamic character archetype for your dark fantasy world building. We are not just talking about some monster your party hacks away at with swords. No, we're looking at a mythic character, a severe Marquis wielding the dual power of brutal conflict and intense reconciliation. Let's see how you can use this guy to forge some truly unforgettable narrative tension.
To really lock into the vibe we're going for here, I want you to picture this opening scene. You've got two friends, Mara and Aaron, sitting across a table from each other. Aaron smiles like a brother, raising an old silver cup. But suddenly, the wine inside it boils pitch black. A booming voice from the rafters demands, "Say the rest." Black feathers drift down through the smoke, and these two friends are suddenly forced to confront their deeply broken bond under the watchful, fiery gaze of a wolf-like beast scraping its serpent tail against the ceiling beams. That is the sheer atmospheric power Amon can bring to your story.
So, moving into our first major area, the Ars Goetia profile. To understand how to write that terrifying scene, we first need to look at where this creature actually originates.
In his traditional Ars Goetia profile, Amon is listed as the seventh spirit. He's classified as a great and mighty Marquis, incredibly stern, commanding a massive 40 legions of spirits. So right off the bat, you know we aren't dealing with some minor trickster here. This is an absolute heavy hitter in the folklore hierarchy. Oh, and he's also known for telling things past and future, which gives him this super eerie, omniscient edge.
But here is the absolute most crucial point. It's right there in his primary office. Amon isn't just some demon of mindless destruction or rage. No, his whole deal is his power to cause feuds and reconcile controversies between friends. He literally embodies that dangerous, razor-thin moment when a relationship is either going to completely collapse or be entirely remade. He governs those broken bonds, the heated arguments, the old festering injuries, pulling all those hidden, ugly things right out into the light.
Let's jump to the next section, Wolf, Serpent, and Raven. Let's unpack these terrifying physical traits and see what they actually symbolize for your narrative.
See, Amon isn't just a random mashup of scary animal parts. He is a literal chimera of fierce judgment. Breaking this down, the wolf element suggests predation, sure, but it also screams hunger, pack instinct, and deep loyalty. Then you have the serpent tail, which perfectly represents ancient cunning, hidden poison, and those lingering consequences that always bite you in the end. Finally, he often appears as a man with raven-like features, which brings in themes of memory, dark omens, and the funereal voice of the dead. He's primal, prophetic, and funereal, all wrapped up into one nightmare.
When you're describing him in your own writing, you really want to lean heavily into sensory storytelling to match this intense color palette. Don't just tell the reader he's scary. Make them feel it. Make them feel the blistering heat of the firelight rising from below. Let them see the charcoal black and glowing ember red. Describe the rough texture of burned parchment, the black feathers drifting through the air, the smell of singed fur and the cracking stone. His very presence should feel ancient, incredibly severe, and weirdly enough, cleansing.
Which brings us to our next concept, the judge of broken bonds. And what's really fascinating here is how this frames his core theme, the paradox of fire.
Think about it. On one hand, he causes feuds. But he doesn't just burn things down for the sake of destruction. To Amon, fire is exposure. It burns away politeness, false peace, and all those comfortable lies we tell each other. And on the flip side, he reconciles controversies. He cleanses. He acts as this terrifying mediator who drags every single wound and grievance into the open so that actual, genuine peace can finally exist. Looking at his archetype dossier, we see a personality that is blunt, wrathful, and completely impossible to flatter. As a character or entity in your world, his absolute greatest strength is forcing hidden resentment into spoken words. Under his influence, your characters are going to say exactly what they were never meant to say. They'll remember things they tried so desperately to bury, and he'll basically drag all their darkest secrets kicking and screaming out into the light.
But, every great archetype needs a weakness, right? For Amon, it's that he literally cannot rule in a space where forgiveness is freely chosen, without pride or bargaining. That is his kryptonite. But the narrative danger he brings to your plot, it's immense. He acts as this intense catalyst who tests whether a bond even deserves to exist anymore. Basically, he heals a friendship by first making it almost impossible to save. It is high-stakes, absolute emotional warfare.
So let's look at forging dark fantasy worlds and see how we can build this into actionable plot hooks for your own Solomonic-inspired settings.
Think about the institutions in your world for a second. Amon would perfectly preside over courts of accusation and deeply divided houses. His followers might not even be your standard obvious warmongers. Instead, they could be judges, confessors, spies, or diplomats who believe peace is entirely worthless unless every secret is laid bare. Imagine a city living under Amon's shadow suffering from sudden, massive waves of public confession, where old friends become bitter enemies overnight, just so a true foundation can finally be built.
Let's look at 3 actionable scenarios you could drop right into your campaign or novel. First up, the wolf at the wedding. Picture a lavish royal banquet where a wolf with a serpent tail crashes the party, and by dawn, every single guest has been forced to confess a deep betrayal. Or how about 40 broken oaths? This is where every kingdom treaty spontaneously ignites, revealing hidden clauses written in invisible ink, sparking the first truly honest negotiations in a century. Or third, the Feast of Future Sorrows, where a prophet foresees family-destroying arguments that require impossible apologies before sunrise to avoid disaster. These hooks position Amon perfectly as a dark mentor or antagonist.
While a different demon, like, say, Valefor, might ask what loyalty will make you steal, Amon asks a much, much harder question. What will loyalty survive after fire has passed through it? That is the ultimate thematic question you have to ask of your characters when you subject them to Amon's fiery trial. It's the ultimate test whether their bonds were actually built on love and trust or just dependency and fear.
As you build your worlds and write these really intense, gritty character arcs, remember that Amon is at his absolute strongest when he's written as that terrible, roaring fire between accusation and forgiveness. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on for your own writing. If absolute truth is the true price of reconciliation, are your characters' bonds actually strong enough to endure the flames? What will they choose when the smoke finally clears? Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and as always, happy world building.